Welcome. Eric Dubay, is he trying to create a cult? Or maybe he has already created a cult? Many flat earth channels are also into other conspiracies, such as 5G, the ongoing pandemic, September 11, and many others. Many are also Christian and try to find evidence in the Bible for theories they believe in. Eric is different. He tries to create his own faith. It not only contains flat earth, but is also religion, politics, and much more. Yes, you can laugh at it all, but I don't. He has 85,000 followers. The first film I will show parts of has been shown 30,000 times in 4 days. It has over 800 comments. Mostly comments from people who believe in Eric's nonsense and praise him. This despite the fact that the whole video is based on Eric's fantasies. I think that suggests it to be a cult. After watching the video, feel free to leave a comment. Do you think it reminds of a cult? Okay, let's start the first video.
Every day in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, thousands of Muslims gather and walk westward circles around a tall black stone cube called the Kaaba. This Kaaba stone lies at the very center of Islam's most important mosque, the Great Mosque of Mecca, and is the most sacred site in Islam, said to be the Bat Allah, House of God, where all Muslims must turn to face before daily prayers. The most common epithet often used for Kaaba translates to the center of the earth, and in the 9th century, Islamic scholar Al-Kasai argued that the true Kaaba was actually located directly beneath the North Pole Star. This would mean the true Kaaba is actually Mount Meru, and not the large black stone worshipped in Saudi Arabia. This would mean that every day thousands of Muslims walk westward circles around Kaaba, just like every night thousands of stars rotate westward circles around Mount Meru. This would mean that just like the ancient Chinese and Greeks would face north before commencing prayer, that Muslims too are meant to be facing the North Pole rather than Saudi Arabia.
So all Muslims, now you know. Eric Dubay has explained that you should not turn to Mecca, but to the North Pole. The North Pole and the fictional magnetic mountain there are central to the homemade religion by Eric Dubay, and he's trying to get his followers to believe this crap. Eric makes video after video where he tries to find evidence for this magnetic mountain in different religions and cultures, so also in this video. I will now fast forward through a section of the video where he lists different cultures and religions that he claims to worship and have worshipped this magical mountain. From the pictures you will understand the context.
It is, of course, impossible for these pillars, temples, and churches to all be the centers of the world. which only further proves the point that none of them are authentic, and they are each merely symbolic representations. The one and only true center point of all creation, the navel of both the heavens and earth, is undeniably the North Pole. But by giving us all these symbolic facsimiles and by turning Earth into a gigantic tilting sphere spun around the sun, the North Pole has effectively been nullified in the minds of the masses as being the true, natural, sacred center of the universe.
And there Eric connected his own religion with flat Earth. So the center of the universe is on the North Pole. So I, who lives in the Arctic, live next to the center of the universe. I'm perhaps some kind of god? Unlike other flat earthers, Eric claims that the North Pole is also forbidden to visit, not just Antarctica. This is his answer to the question why there are no images of this magnetic mountain. I have friends who worked at the Swedish icebreaker Oden and have visited North Pole. On September 7, 1991, it reached the North Pole as the first non-nuclear icebreaker. After that, it has visited the North Pole 8 more times. It's possible to visit North Pole as a tourist too, but Eric has not been there. So according to him, it just lies that people visited the North Pole.
The Lapp or Sami people of Scandinavia tell a folktale about a man who disappeared in the wintertime. His wife tracked him in the snow, finding that he had walked repeatedly in circles around a bush, and that after several circuits around the bush, his human footsteps suddenly turned into bear tracks. She then repeatedly circumambulated the bush herself and magically transformed into a bear as well. When she finally found her husband in a nearby cave, he was sorrowful and lamented that now he was prophesied to be murdered by his own son, but warned her that if she jumped into his empty skin as soon as he was flayed, she would and did magically recover her human form. This folktale preserves the tradition of polar, stellar, Ursa Major, Great Bear worship and the perambulation of a sacred tree in the far north.
I was born and raised in Sápmi and still lives in Sápmi. I have my roots in the Sápmi people. The Sápmi people do not want to be called Lapp. It's the name given them by others, those who force them to not exercise their own faith or live as they always lived. They did not worship stars. Nature is sacred. They have holy places like mountains, sacred animals, and so on. Various natural phenomena such as the sun, moon, thunder, and wind were also considered divine. They were life-giving and had both good and bad sides. The sun, Päivä, was the central goddess who gave life to all beings. She provided light, warmth, and vegetation. The thunder, Dreimfith, gave rain when made the ground green, and with the rainbow he drove away evil spirits and trolls. But he could also be furious and dangerous to humans and animals. He was worshipped so as not to cause forest fire and harm to people and their reindeers. The bear had a very special position as a sacred animal. It was considered to have superhuman powers and supernatural abilities. That they worshipped the constellation Big Bear is pure fantasy. In the Sápmi language, it's not called a Big Bear. I'm proud to have this as my originals, and I get pissed when idiots like Eric Dubay try to use my people as proof of his crazy ideas and lies.
The idea of the dance of the stars has survived in modern popular culture with the long-running hit television show Dancing with the Stars. But the concept was far more prevalent in ancient times. The traditional European maypole dance, for example, features a central tree or pillar topped with a cross and two equal-sized circles on either side representing the sun and moon. Dancers circle around the maypole, holding long colorful streamers, which wrap and weave around the central pillar, causing the dancers to narrow their circles. The pillar is Polaris at the pole. The dancers represent the fixed and wandering stars, while the spiraling streamers show the paths of the sun and moon over and around the earth. During this summer celebration, like the ever-narrowing spiraling streamers, the sun has actually just narrowed its spiral path from its greatest southern extent at the Tropic of Capricorn during December winter solstice, and fast approaches its arrival at the northern Tropic of Cancer during the upcoming summer solstice. In fact, originally and still today in many countries, the maypole dance is not performed in May at all, but rather on June 21st, the very day the sun reaches its northernmost peak.
As usual, Eric mixes things up and invents his own explanations. You also see in this video that he shows a leafed pole from Sweden, and the other one I think is from Germany. In Germany, you raise the pole 1st of May, and in Sweden in the end of June at midsummer. And you do not celebrate the same things in Sweden and Germany. In addition, Eric's description of what is the pole is symbolizing is completely wrong. Eric chooses traditions and religions from all over the world and invents his own explanations to fit his lies and his crazy model and his religion. No, I can no longer bear this video. We now will take a look for another video from Eric, and it's about politics. Can I get as crazy as this video? Let's see.
All governments are immoral and criminal institutions because they force everyone, under threat of violence, to pay mandatory taxes for life. There are hundreds of taxes, from property tax to income tax to inheritance tax. You must pay them all, or else the government will use the power and force of its machinery to seize your bank account, arrest you, and put you in jail. How is that any different than the mafia? Governments demand we pay our dues regularly, promise us we'll be safe and protected if we do, and if we don't, agents come around to shake us down or put us away. If taxes were voluntary, then governments wouldn't automatically be immoral or criminal, because they would be completely funded by donation only. Thus, their very existence limited by voluntarism. Name one thing that governments provide that people couldn't do better, easier, and more efficiently at the community level.
This video is as stupid as the first video. First, not all countries in the world work at the same way. There are terrible countries ruled by terrible dictators. There are countries where religious leaders rule the country, and there are many fantastic democracies. What is financed with taxes is different in different countries. Here, where I live, schools, universities are free. We only pay a low fee for healthcare, but it's different between countries. To found everything voluntary. Are you serious when you suggest that we should pay everything voluntarily? Do you really believe that, Eric? A problem in many countries is that those who have a lot of money often try to avoid paying taxes. So why would they donate voluntarily? In your fantasy world, who would build roads, schools, hospitals, universities, and so on? Then to call politicians criminals. In a democracy, it is the people who choose the politicians. If they do not do a great job, they will be gone in the next election. I'm well aware of that different countries works in different ways, what is paid by taxes, insurances and so on. And I respect that people have different views of what the state's responsibility is and not. But your suggestion is totally crazy and your claims are ridiculous. You are a big fool, Eric Dubay.
There is nowhere on Earth you can go that isn't controlled by a statist government. Every piece of land has been divided up and claimed by 196 nations, all of which are controlled by some form of forced governance. There is nowhere left on Earth that sovereign, freedom-loving individuals can go live freely without a mafioso government forcing them to pay taxes and obey laws. All current forms of government initiate and mandate violence and slavery upon their populations. We are all slaves to our governments because every nation forces under threat of violence and kidnapping that we must pay them a percentage of our income. So if the definition of slavery is forcefully taking 100% of someone's income, what is it called when governments forcefully take 60% of someone's income? Is that not slavery? We are taught in school that slavery ended long ago, and it is universally understood that slavery is immoral. But if governments still are forcibly taking even 1% of their population's income, that is still slavery, and even 1% slavery is immoral. The very definition of the word government.
Eric, why do you lie? You have come up with the idea that government means mind control in Latin. It's not true.
Is mind control. And the vast majority of people worldwide are absolutely mind controlled by their governments, medias, and education systems to believe that their statist government is a moral and altruistic institution that exists for the benefit of the people. The reality is, of course, the opposite. The reality is that all nations are like open-air slave plantations, allowing their servant populations to choose their occupation, giving the illusion of freedom, then swooping in on payday to steal the fruits of your labor. This is why all governments are criminal and immoral, and why the only system of just governance is anarchism or voluntarism. There is no political solution to the problem of government. Voting for a new ceremonial figurehead every 4 years has never, will never, and could never create any significant, lasting positive change, because governments cannot be improved or made moral from within. None of them respect the right of the individual to opt out of being governed. All governments around the world initiate the use of violence in the form of police and coercion in the form of taxes, and this is absolutely immoral and unacceptable. Consensual sex is moral because it is voluntary, whereas rape is immoral because it's forced. Similarly, things like charity donations and the free market are moral because they are voluntary, whereas theft and taxation are immoral because they are forced. The root problem festering within all governments around the world is not the rife internal corruption or criminality. Those are merely symptoms and side effects of statism. The paramount problem with government is that its mandates are mandatory. compulsions are compulsory. For governments to be moral institutions, all taxes and interactions must be made voluntary. If governments are honestly in existence for our benefit, then they must be voluntary and never initiate the use of violence against their populations.
I'm the first to admit that we do not live in a perfect world, but your image of the world and how it works has nothing to do with reality, Eric. You are as ignorant of politics as you are of religion and science. Eric, what is your goal with your videos? Is it to start a form of religion or movement or cult? Personally, I find it scary that people follows Eric and believes in all the crazy videos he's published. Okay, now I can stand more of this crazy maniac. That was all for this time. On Friday comes the 4th episode of my series Flatardia. If you haven't watched it, you will find a link to the series playlist in the description. Okay, thank you for this time. Bye.